Hey everybody, what's up y'all? Welcome back to my channel, TammyTalks here. Let's talk the Real Housewives of Atlanta, season 14. This is episode 18, the reunion part 1. So if you're brand new to my channel, I do breakdowns on various TV shows, scripting and reality, interjecting my own thoughts, opinions, and theories into each and every recap. So if you enjoy that type of content, please hit that subscribe button, thumbs up the video, hop into the comment section, so we can talk a bit about the episode. So the set was absolutely gorgeous. That set was gorgeous. Okay, let's get that out. I don't want to go through like who I thought was like the best dressed, worst dressed, whatever, and critique everybody's outfit. But I will say Kenya hands down looked the best at the reunion, and Sanya was the worst. And I would just say that I didn't, and at worst, just meaning I didn't care for. I definitely just didn't care for her. I didn't care for her outfit at all. I don't care for Sanya as a housewife, as an Olympian, as an athlete, chef's kiss. As a housewife, trash. All right, so the ladies come out, and they're coming out one by one. Marlo and Sheree had the seats closest to Andy, which I was actually. I mean, I get that they were like two of the newer. Sheree's not a new housewife, but they were two of the newer peach holders this season. But I was shocked. I did not expect. I mean, I did, but I didn't expect Sheree and Marlo to be sitting. I don't know. I fully thought it would be like Kenya and actually, I really thought it would be like KANDI and maybe Sheree, but. Nonetheless, all right, so they have a segment where they talk about who is the new bone collector. They go through and they play all these different segments showing how all the ladies have been, carrying bones at any given time throughout the season. They rated everybody with like 2 bones apiece. All right, Sanya says she does not want the title of bone collector. That's not something that she wants, even though I feel like Sanya had a lot more than just 2. Sanya did a lot of running back and like flip-flopping this season. So while they're talking, while Andy's trying to ask questions, Drew and Sheree get into it about Fatum, who I hope does not come out. But they get into it about how Drew brought that bone to kind of throw because Sheree had her little chihuahua there, and it just kind of went back and forth. And it's like, Sheree, you know what you were doing by bringing Fatum to everything. You know what you were doing. So let's not even play the games. Let's not even get into that because you know what you were doing. So we start off with Sheree. So they commend her for finally having a fashion show with fashions. Andy asks, so when is the line going to come out? Because as of the taping of the reunion, which I believe was maybe a month or so before the finale, when you go to She by Sheree's website, you could not purchase anything. Sheree said, and I quote, Sheree said that from the stuff was not on the website yet, when the finale airs, because that's when everything is supposed to, that's when everything's supposed to go live. She was guaranteeing that you will be able to go onto the site, shebysheree.com, and you will be able to order things. All the fashions would be there. We know that was not the case, okay? We know that and it could have just been she didn't have the proper bandwidth, she wasn't prepared, but that was not the case. But as of today, right now, you can go onto She by Sheree and you can buy a $245 hoodie, or you can buy a $142 t-shirt that has a smiley on there. So, Andy asked Sheree, was she embarrassed by the last time she was on the show? And she answered September, spring, summer. Sheree said she was not embarrassed, but the question caught her off guard. So they asked her, girl, why didn't you just say that? She didn't know. She probably panicked. And we all remember the September, spring, summer. September, spring, summer. We all remember that. Like, that was not one of Sheree's finer moments. And that is definitely something that is going to, I don't want to say haunt, but that's something that's gonna like haunt her for a while. She got the fashion show up and running, but we still remember September, spring, summer. So Sheree, they asked the question of, did Marlo actually make Sheree pay for the things when she had that little party after the mishap with Tyrone? And Sheree said, yes, you don't treat me with my own credit card. So y'all knew Marlo wasn't going to pay for nothing at that little thing for her. So Sheree then talked about how KANDI does not support her because KANDI would be on her Speak On It, I think it's like a YouTube podcast show, and she would be talking about the episodes, and Sheree was apparently offended and felt away by a lot of the things that KANDI would say on there. And KANDI said, well, if we want to talk about people talking about people, because I do support you for the one, and for the two, let's talk about when you were outside and you and Marlo were talking about me, which I thought was a very disgusting conversation. That was still a very disgusting conversation between Marlo and Sheree. And Sheree doesn't even say anything then. She then goes on to say that she doesn't talk about KANDI. Roll that beautiful bean footage, because then all these clips come in of scenes where Sheree is talking shit or insinuating things about KANDI. I guess I don't understand. Like, you guys are being taped. You know that, right? Your confessionals are taped. These scenes at your houses are taped. So why is it that when you guys know that you're being taped and filmed, why do we like to act like we don't remember things? Oh, I never talked anything about you. You know damn well that you did, and you know that it's on footage. You know that it was there in the confessional. So Sheree said that she gets into it with Drew. So we have this thing about, why didn't you support the dropping it with Drew? Drew said that she would have loved Sheree's like help with that. Sheree is working out. Drew said that she got her butt done. And I'm like, damn well she didn't. But it comes down to, why didn't you support Drew? If you are into fitness the way Sheree is, why didn't you lend a helping hand with her? Why didn't you try to help her? And Sheree has no answer. You just sat there and talked shit about her, but then felt away when people talked shit about She by Sheree that took 14 plus years. So, I just feel like while the reunions are entertaining, they're very annoying because nobody holds themselves accountable, ever. So, they then get into another fan question, or I think these are like Twitter questions. And Sheree was asked if she really does not pay her bills, and why does it take her so long when she does do them. Sheree said it depends on whether or not she pays the bill. So then we get into this lesson that Sheree should have learned as a child, that when someone provides a service for you, when someone does something for you and there's a contract, then you give them payment. And Kenya was like, just because you're not satisfied with something doesn't mean that you don't pay the person. You pay them and then you don't work with them again. But when somebody finishes a service for you and you have a contract, you exchange that money to them. That's how that works. Then she tried to say that Marlo said that she wasn't going to finish paying for her dress because she didn't like it. And Marlo was like, I'm going to pay her. That was a joke. I'm literally going to pay her. I was joking and said I'm going to pull a you. So apparently that shade went right over Sheree's head. So then we have, it turns into Marlo and KANDI going back and forth about KANDI helping her, because we were talking about that conversation. Marlo said that Todd called her to pitch a show. And I said, Marlo, that don't even sound like that makes sense. Because why would Todd call you, out of all people, out of all the housewives, why would Todd call you and try to pitch a show for you? So KANDI was like, no, you called me and I called my team to see if that we could find something for you. And Andy was like, KANDI does pitch a lot of shows for other people. So then KANDI goes into, her struggling voice when she's nervous, she's mad. And her voice is cracking. I said, y'all done got KANDI pissed. So KANDI said that it's annoying for Marlo to continually say that she doesn't help people when she has tried to help her. And she knows that. And Marlo just kind of sits there and looks, well, I don't know that. It's like, Marlo, you are flailing at this point. Flailing. And I'm going to get into it later in Marlo's segment, but Marlo's first year as a peach holder was disappointing. Disappointing because you didn't win any new fans over. You didn't. You pushed some people that, tolerated you. You pushed those people away, but you definitely didn't win anybody over. So then we get back to Sheree, because Sheree was like, hey y'all, Sheree segment. So Sheree said that she was abstinent with Tyrone because the sex was bad, and then she just eventually could not take it anymore. So she then ultimately thinks that Tyrone was using her. I guess I was kind of confused in this part, but I guess for them to kind of bring people on to film with them, a housewife has to sign off on, I guess the scenes or something. That's what I thought it was. I could be wrong. I could have completely heard that the wrong way. But she said Tyrone was mad because she didn't do that. They then talk about the fact that she's dating Martell. Everybody knows it's Martell at this point. He asked her, Andy asked Sheree, what does Martell do? And she was like, what? He does real estate. I said, real estate? Real estate? Okay, Sheree. Sure. But then she then said that he's not her boyfriend. They're dating. They're having fun, taking it a day at a time. So they point out the red flags with Martell. And Andy was like, what are the red flags? Kenya was like, cheating on his wife multiple times, had a baby the last time. And Sheree says she's ignoring the red flags because that's what a lot of women do. We all ignore red flags. Okay, Sheree. So then we get to Sanya's piece of a segment. I was like, damn, Sanya really didn't get a big segment. So it starts off with talking about Sanya and Drew, and if they have a relationship or if they don't talk. Sanya said that she has a relationship with the other ladies that are there. She does not talk to Drew. So Drew thought that they were building a relationship or friendship. So then she asked Sanya, what did I do? And we all would like to know, what did Drew do? Because it seemed like Sanya was mad at Drew for something that didn't even make sense. Or didn't even really happen. So Sanya said back in New York, when they went up there to see KANDI's play, right? And Sanya had that conversation with Drew in front of everybody about how she does not like the way that Drew was getting into it with other people. According to Sanya, she had that conversation with Drew up in her room. And that was a precursor for Drew to be able to see and kind of defend herself to the other people. She said that Drew would continually tell her, the other ladies think that I just want to fight and argue and stuff all the time, and that's not me. So Sanya felt that she would set that up so Drew could defend herself. I'm sorry, but that sounds stupid as fuck. I'm not saying Sanya's lying. I'm not saying Drew is lying. But that sounds stupid as fuck. So Sanya felt that Drew betrayed her trust. And I said, how is that betraying your trust? I don't know. So then Sanya gets loud. And what I didn't really like is they went through this thing where they're asking Drew, do you realize that you overtalk people? When Sanya was clearly overtalking Drew. In some of these instances, it's not Drew over talking people. It's Drew talking, someone else trying to interject, and them talking over her, and them expecting Drew to stop talking because they start. Sanya was over talking Drew tonight. Am I the only one that noticed that? Sanya was over talking Drew. So Sanya they then ask Sanya, Drew said you were clout chasing. Marlo agreed. Why aren't you mad at Marlo about that? Her response is, when Marlo didn't know me then, I think her opinion of me has changed. See, Sanya is trying to hold on to Marlo for whatever reason, when you should have been mad at both of them if that's the case, or not, because Drew didn't know you that well then either. Don't bring Sanya's ass back. I'm like, Sanya was trash this entire season. So then Sanya starts crying. And I guess I didn't understand why she was crying. And they were like, she's crying. And Drew said she has tears. And then Kandi is cracking up, and Kenya was like, "That's crying." But I felt Drew. She has tears because what are you even crying for? Nothing was even said remotely close to anything that would make you want to cry. So what are we doing? I just so then it turns into, do you guys know Drew to be a liar? Is Sheree, or do you know Drew to be a flip flopper? Because Sanya feels that Drew flip flops. Sanya, I feel like you flip flop to be real. So Sheree was like, I don't know about Drew being a flip flopper, but she is a liar. I said, Sheree, you're a liar too. You're a liar too, but okay. All right. So the final segment is Marlo. Not a lot happened this entire reunion, so I'm hoping part 2 is going to be more eventful. So they showed Marlo's package, all the clips of her from the season, and Marlo was immediately crying. She gets emotional about her mother. She said that, wow, right after her mother's visit, she did spend some time with the boys when she was there, her nephews. But then after her visit, she went back to her old ways when she went back home. And Marlo sometimes feels by herself because she does not have her mom in the capacity that she wishes she does. So like she'll see Mama Joyce and how she defends Kandi, and then we saw Sanya's mom, how she defends her. Drew's mom, Sheree's mom, has been on the show. So like she sees these other people, with their mother, and she said that there are times where she gets into it with the girls and she wishes that she could call on her mom and just kind of vent to her, but she can't. And I guess my thing is, I empathize with Marlo, but it's also like Marlo is so hypocritical because you basically have a similar situation with your mom that Kenya has, where her mom, quote unquote, didn't want her, all this other stuff, but like you use that against her to make her out to be like a terrible person. Wasn't it Marlo that said, when someone's own mother doesn't want them? Isn't that like paraphrasing? But isn't that what Marlo said to Kenya? So like that's why it's hard to feel bad for Marlo. And I know that hurt people. But I look at it as like, at some point you have to look internally, and Marlo needs to go get some therapy then, because Marlo is talking about how some of the girls on the cast don't make her feel worthy, and she's like, we have She by Sheree, who has like a fashion line, and then we have a former Miss America and a Grammy Award winning singer, and Sang is an Olympian, Drew is a singer and an actress. Who else was in over? Oh, that was it. I feel like she said something else about Sheree. But she's saying that how sometimes the women don't make her feel welcome and worthy. And she feels like she's trying to get into the in crowd. The entire time that she is doing this, everybody is like, oh. And Kenya is sitting there just... Because it's hard for... And I saw people chastising Kenya on Twitter, but like it's hard to feel empathy for somebody that has been shitting on you and shitting on your life and constantly going back and forth into you, back and forth with you when they're going through something similar. But hurt people. So Marlo talks about how she ran away at 10 years old because her mother had beat her so bad one day. So she gave her little brother a bath and she ran away, and she ended up getting bounced from foster home to foster home, where she was abused in one. She went to another one and she thought that they were going to get along great, but then that foster mother kicked her out for telling other people she was strict. She was concerned about her image. She went to another foster home where that home had a daughter. The daughter felt that she wasn't getting enough attention anymore, so she got kicked out of that. So she went bouncing from foster home to foster home, and the camera kept zooming in on Kenya, and once again, Kenya was not fazed. I don't blame her. While Marlo's story is extremely sad, and I hate that anybody went through that, that does not give Marlo an excuse to behave the way that she does and to talk to people the way she does and to treat people the way that she does. Again, she talked shit about Kenya's relationship with her mother for her to only have gone through a similar thing. So they asked Kenya, was Marlo the housewife she thought she would be? And Kenya said no. She said because instead of her coming in and showing that she has a big heart and can be a good friend and has all of this going for herself, she came in and chose to do the exact opposite, which is true. Because Marlo could have used this storyline, used this part of her life to propel her to ensure that she got a peach again next season. But Marlo didn't do that. Marlo chose to come in and be a bitch to everybody. Marlo chose to come in and try to pick fights and pick things with everybody, hoping that she would get a moment so that that would ensure she would come back. She went about it the wrong way. She did. So they talk about how Marlo and Kenya, were seemingly getting along in the beginning of the season. And Marlo's talking about how they show a clip of when Kenya got into it with Mark in New York and he wanted to come pick up Brooklyn, wanted her to come pick up Brooklyn. And Marlo was there for her. And then there are, a scene when they're on the bus and Marlo was like asleep on Kenya's shoulder. And they're showing how they were getting along. But then like Kenya said, you turned around and used and weaponized my vulnerable moments against me the second you got a chance to. You talked about her relationship with Mark and how Mark didn't want her and all this stuff every chance you got. And Marlo sat her ass on that screen and said she never talked about Mark. And it's like, this is what I mean, like nobody ever holds themselves accountable. Marlo, every single chance you got, you talked about how Kenya had a man that didn't want her. How Kenya was married to a man that would do this, that, and the other. You talked about her, you talked about Mark every chance you got. Every chance you got. So like, what do y'all expect out of Kenya? So Marlo then goes on to say that, none of these ladies could ever walk a mile in her shoes. But I think she said they would like judge her because she's into fashion and, they were calling her a prostitute and a hoe, but they can't name one man that she has ever been with. And then she talks about how they talk about like her fashion or something like that. And then that's kind of the end of, the reunion. Like I said, not a lot went on. It seemed kind of chaotic. It didn't seem really structured well or anything like that. But let me know what you guys thought about the reunion part 1. And I will catch you guys in the next one.